read his greatest.
Let's leave it out.
I don't have any further questions, John. No questions.
No question, George.
All right, you may stand down.
Call Kermit Channel.
Would you like to drive back today?
Kermit Channel.
What is it you're looking for?
Two slides. What did y'all put them in these special slides? Have you got?
I just did.
Barbara has them.
You are the same Kermit Channel who testified yesterday, or
Yes,
it
I
was
am.
yesterday?
Thursday.
Thursday. It has been a long time ago. Did you participate in the execution of the search warrants at the homes of, in particular the home of Damien Echols?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you what's marked for identification as State's Exhibit 83, and ask if you can identify that.
Yes, I can.
How can you identify it?
Identified, it has my serology case number on the bag, my initials, and my Q item.
I want to also show you what's marked for identification as State's Exhibit 117, and ask if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
All right. And does that photograph fairly and accurately portray the item as it appeared to you that night?
Yes, it does.
All right. Now, we would offer State's Exhibit 117.
No objections to State's Exhibit 117.
All right, it may be received without objection.
And is this a photograph of the location of where you recovered what's marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 83?
Yes, it is.
And did you recover State's Exhibit 83 there in this location at the home of Damien Echols?
Yes, I did.
John, we would offer State's Exhibit 83.
Judge, we would this time object, you will. Let's see the book for a second. The name of this book is Never on a Broomstick. It's a book about the history of witches. I don't think this is relevant to any issue in the case. In addition, it has marked on here Crittenden County Library. My client bought this at a library book sale, and we certainly don't want the jury to infer that he stole the book from the library.
John, are we going to be able to cross-examine Mr. Price about his testimony?
Y'all want me to answer both of those exchanges, or let's just go on and ignore it?
Well, we object on the relevancy of this book, Judge.
Overrule if your objection is to relevancy.
Your Honor, we would ask that the book then be read into evidence if it's going to be received into.
Well, the book's not being received for the truth of the contents contained therein, but merely being received to show that the book of that title was found at the defendant's residence. And ladies and gentlemen, in that regard, these two items of evidence should be considered by you only as to the guilt or innocence of the defendant, Damien Echols.
Well, Judge, it's our position that not only is the importance of the book based on the title, but the contents of the book. And the jury should be entitled to know what's in the contents of the book.
Your Honor, do you want us to read it in our case?
Well, if you think you need to, you do whatever you need to do. I'm allowing it simply as being found on his residence, a book of that title.
Exhibit, Your Honor?
Yes. I think that'd fall under the heading of a filibuster, but go ahead if you think you need to.
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
Mr. Channel, on June the 3rd, when you were executing the search warrant at my client's house, did you seize a copy of the Holy Bible?
No, I did not.
Okay, nothing further.
Did you see one?
Not to my recollection.
Anything else?
No.
All right, is that all you wanted for?
Yep.
All right, you're free to go. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Call John Murray.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now pending before the court, so help you God.
Would you state your name and occupation for the jury?
Johnny L. Murray, criminal investigator, Crittenden County Sheriff's Department.
And Investigator Murray, I want to direct your attention to, I believe it was May the 19th, 1992. On that date, did you have an occasion to have some conversation with the defendant, Damien Echols?
Yes, I did.
All right. And as a result of those conversations, did you go to his home in Lakeshore Trailer Park where he
Yes, I
lived at
did.
that time?
Yes, I did.
All right. And did you ask for permission of his mother to search his room?
Yes, I did.
And as a result of that search, did you take certain items from his room?
Yes, I did.
Then we're going to show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 115 and 116, and ask if you can identify those.
Yes, I can.
And do those photographs fairly and accurately portray the item as it appeared to you at that time?
Yes, I do.
Now, we would offer State's Exhibit 115 and 116.
We just request the same cautionary instruction that you previously gave with respect to this testimony.
Your Honor, are these all, so I understand your ruling, in the in-camera hearing, did you rule that all this was admissible?
Yes.
Okay, we would just keep our same objections, Your Honor.
All right. They may be received according to the previous ruling of the court. And again, ladies and gentlemen, these two items of evidence should be considered by you, and your deliberation is going only to the defendant, Damien Echols, and they're being offered solely and only for the purpose of proving intent, motive, scheme, or design, and for that limited purpose.
I also want to show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 110, and ask if you can identify that item.
Yes, I can.
And is that the same item that is depicted in State's Exhibit 115?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, we would offer State's Exhibit 110.
All right, again, it may be received subject to the previous ruling of the court. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you are instructed that you may consider that as evidence only as to the defendant, Damien Echols, and it's limited in admissibility toward the proof of motive, intent, scheme, or design.
Detective Murray, in relation to State's Exhibit 110, I noticed that there are, in the photograph, there's some items on the photograph that aren't on 110 at this time. Were those items that are shown in the photograph, were they on Exhibit 110 at the time that you took them?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I may exhibit these to the jury.
Yes, you may.
And what is State's Exhibit
116, it was some type of animal skull when I received it from the Damien Echols residence, and later learned that it was the skull of a dog.
I also want to show you State's Exhibit 112 and State's Exhibit 111, ask if you can identify those items.
Yes, I can.
And did you also recover those items from the home of Damien Echols?
Yes, I did.
All right, where were those items?
They were in his bedroom.
Where were they in his bedroom?
112 was on the wall. 111 was laying on the table.
Okay. Was there anything else laying on that table?
There was a number of other items. I don't remember everything. There was on there, quite a few items in the room.
Your Honor, we would offer State's Exhibit 111 and 112.
Again, ladies, they may be received subject to the previous ruling of the court. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you are instructed that you may consider this as evidence only as to the defendant, Damien Echols, and for the limited purpose of proving motive, intent, scheme, or design.
I also want to show you what are marked for identification purposes of State's Exhibit 113 and 114. Ask if you can identify those.
Yes, I can.
Do those photographs fairly and accurately portray the items presented to you at that time?
Yes, they do.
Now, we would offer State's Exhibit 113 and 114.
All right, same ruling, they may be received subject to the previous ruling of the court. And ladies and gentlemen, you're instructed that these two items of evidence may be considered only as to the defendant, Damien Echols, and that they are being received for the limited purpose of proving intent, motive, scheme, or design.
And what are these photographs of?
They were poster type photographs of items that were in Damien Echols' room.
No, if I have just 1 minute. I don't have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Officer, what was the date that you went to Mr. Echols' home?
The date, I believe, was possibly 2 days past the date of arrest. He was arrested on 5/19/92, and I think it was possibly the 22nd.
So those items you are saying you received 2 days after the arrest?
After an arrest.
After an arrest?
Right.
And how long prior to May 5th of 1993 was that?
Prior to May 5th,
Of 1993.
May 19th, I arrested Damien Echols on a charge.
Okay, so,
And May 21st, I recovered these items from his residence. I picked these items up at his residence.
so you picked
For
these
the record,
items
it was approximately 1 year prior.
1 year prior, is that correct?
Prior to,
Prior to May of 1993?
right,
Okay. Now, are you aware that the exhibit number 111, the picture that you introduced, are you aware that that came from a skating magazine?
no sir, I'm not.
Okay. Did you do any research on that?
No sir, I didn't.
So this was nearly a year before this happened that you got these items.
That's correct.
Anything else? You may stand down and call your next witness.
Methodist, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Bryn Ridge.
Get that other man in here and out, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, I might have, in the cautionary instruction I gave you a moment ago, I might have said that you could consider the evidence as to the guilt or innocence of Damien Echols. The first time I said it, strike that reference. It's to be considered for motive only. The limited purpose of going to is motive only and not guilt or innocence. Do you each understand that?
For the record, you're the same Detective Bryn Ridge who's previously testified.
Yes, sir.
Detective Ridge, did you participate in the search of the home of Jason Baldwin, June the 3rd?
Yes, sir, I did.
I'm going to show you what I've marked for identification purposes. States Exhibit 118 and ask if you can identify that.
Yes, sir, I can.
And where did you recover that item?
From the residence of Jason Baldwin.
And then what is it?
It's 11 T-shirts.
Is that 118?
E90, yes, sir. Exhibit 118.
Your Honor, we would offer States Exhibit 118. What color are the T-shirts, by the way?
Black with different designs and colors.
Well, it may be received without objection.
We want to show you States Exhibit 119 and ask if you can identify that.
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, and what is that item?
Four
Where did you
black.
recover it?
It was recovered from Jason Baldwin's residence, 4 black shirts, 1 green rain jacket.
Your Honor, we would offer the black T-shirts.
All right, they may be received without objection.
Next, States Exhibit 119.
Exhibit 119.
And what color were these shirts again?
Black.
Any questions? No further questions, Your Honor.
No question.
How many white T-shirts did you take?
None.
How many were there?
I didn't see any.
You didn't see any white T-shirts?
No, sir.
See any gray T-shirts?
Not that I can recall, no, sir.
You saying the only T-shirt he had were black T-shirts?
That's the shirts that I found, yes, sir.
You didn't see a single white T-shirt?
Not that I can recall.
All right, you can stand. I'm not going to say you're free to go. I've said that 4 times to you already. You may return to the witness room. Call your next witness.
Call Dale Griffis.
Morning, I think it'd be appropriate.
We do, Your Honor.
All right. Come on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the court is going to give you a similar cautionary instruction. You're about to receive evidence or testimony with regard to cultism, satanic affairs, and you are instructed and told that testimony is to be considered only and solely for the limited purpose of establishing motive, intent, scheme, or design. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you state your name and occupation for the jury?
Dale W. Griffis, Tiffin, Ohio. I'm a consultant.
All right. And what type of consultant are you?
I consult to criminal justice, educators, mental health people in the area of non-traditional groups.
Are you married?
Yes, married, 35 years, have 3 children.
And are they adult children?
Yes, they are. One is a photographer with paper. Another one operates a wholesale floral business, and my son is in the construction engineer.
Now, prior to becoming a consultant, what was your work background?
I was 26 years with the Tiffin, Ohio Police Department, at which time I was retired out as a captain and second in command of the police department.
And during the course of that 26 years with the Tiffin, Ohio Police Department, were there short periods of time where you went and worked with other law enforcement agencies?
Yes, there was.
All right.
I worked L.A. Police Department for 2 weeks, San Francisco 2 weeks, and since that time I've worked with other agencies for a long time.
Okay. And in the course of those 2-week stints with the Los Angeles Police Department and San Francisco Police Departments, what area did you work in?
In the area of cults and non-traditional groups, occult groups.
Okay. And what is your educational background?
Graduated from high school, have an associate degree in police science, a bachelor's degree in psychology, master's degree in criminal justice, and a dissertation in criminal justice.
And the master's degree in criminal justice and where you did your dissertation, where were those from?
Columbia Pacific University in San Rafael, California.
All right. And what type of school is that?
It is a educational facility, basically a school without walls.
A what?
School without walls.
All right. What is a school without walls?
You can take your training and education wherever.
Okay. It was much of the work by correspondence?
And phone, fax.
Now, when did you start the coursework at Columbia Pacific University, approximately?
About 1980.
Okay. And did that coursework have some relationship to non-traditional group activity?
My master's work was working in the intelligence work for small agencies, and my doctoral dissertation was on mind control cults and their effects on the objectives of law enforcement.
All right, now, when did you develop this interest in the non-traditional, well, first of all, define for the jury what non-traditional groups are.
I specifically teach people to look at groups, group behavior, group activities from the malevolent side. Everybody's got the right to believe whatever they wish, and I teach them to look at these groups for what they are, whether it be a CULT or an occult group or a gang member or a type of cult that has malevolent tendencies to it.
All right. And what are malevolent tendencies?
Bad. Break law.
Okay. And when did you develop this interest in studying non-traditional group activities?
About 1967, 68, when I started seeing some of these groups that were cause-orientated on the campuses raising some havoc.
And after developing this interest, did you contact schools with walls to try to pursue that study?
I was going through those type of schools until 1976.
What do you mean you were?
I was going to Terra Technical College in Fremont, Ohio. Then I graduated with a degree in psychology from Heidelberg College.
All right. And after that, did you also seek to pursue a course of study at a school with walls?
Yeah, I ran into a case in 1976. I threw me for a loop, and then I went out, tried to get the lateral transfers, went out, did some study, realized that wasn't work. Then, yes, sir, I did go to schools with walls to get additional help.
All right. And did those schools that with walls, did they offer the type of studies in this non-traditional group activity?
No, sir.
Now, if you could explain a little bit about your background in law enforcement experience that relates to the non-traditional group area or occult area.
Well, I started, like I said, in the late 60s, working cause-oriented groups. These are groups that have a purpose or a design or have some interest, and they're out there to further them. And
can you give us an example of that type of
SDS, yeah, the SDS, Students United for Freedom and Peace. Those things what we commonly saw on the campuses.
This was back in the 60s?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And what other experience did you have with non-traditional groups or occult?
Well, I come from a small town in Ohio, and we started hearing cases involving some cults, C-U-L-T-S, and I started checking on that. I thoroughly couldn't believe why people would leave homes, give up their money, and so forth. It became an interest to me, and I looked into it, delved into it, studied it, anything I could get a hold of.
And as a result of those interests that you developed, have you also, for instance, when you were in Los Angeles and San Francisco, did you further that interest?
Yes, that's all I worked while I was out there on the streets working. I tried to be proselytized by these groups, see how they worked, see what their sales pitch was. I went to the American Church of Satan. I went to...
When you say you went to, you saying you were a member? Or?
No. I went to where they held their meetings and looked at how their rooms were set up. I went to their bookstores. At that time, didn't know what a Book of Shadows was. Learned right from the street on up what the different groups was. Went to and worked with police officers, a female police officer who I respect very much, and she helped me a lot.
And did you also interview people involved in this activity?
Over the years, yes, sir, I did. Also, when I was doing my dissertation, at the school I attended, they had what they call an ISP, or Independent Study Project. And I had to, part of my dissertation was the results of that review. I talked to close to 500 of them.
How many?
About 500.
Okay. 500?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, at the present time, approximately how many calls per week do you receive in regard to non-traditional groups?
About 65, averaging.
And of those 65 calls approximately, what percent is related to Satanism?
About 80%.
Now, have you previously qualified as expert in both state and federal court?
Yes, sir, I have.
Your Honor, we would submit Mr. Griffis at this time as an expert.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mr. Griffis, Columbia Pacific University, is that where you went to school?
Yes, sir, that's what I testified to.
And that's basically a mail order college, isn't it? where you can send in information and get a degree. Isn't that what it is?
No, sir. I don't understand that. That's not how that place works.
It's not, in other words, so this little flyer that I have from Columbia Pacific University about business reply mail, send it in on how to get a degree. That's not where you went? Is that where you went to? Is that where you went to college?
Yes, it was, but I don't think that was the question you asked, sir.
Okay. Tell the jury what classes you attended. Let's back up just a second. What year did you graduate from high school?
1955.
Okay. And when did you go to college?
First time I went to college was 1956.
1956. And where did you go to college in 1956?
At Delbert College, associated with Western Reserve, now
Okay.
Case Western Reserve.
Did you ever get a degree there?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever, didn't you, I think you indicated you said you got a technical degree from a community college?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when did you get that degree?
It was 1974-75.
And what was that degree in?
Associate degree in police science.
An associate degree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you have to go to classes
Oh, yes.
and take tests
Yes, sir.
and get a report card or grades?
Yes.
Okay. And have a transcript?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you later go to a 4-year college?
Yes, sir.
And when did you go to a 4-year college?
I actually was going to both of them at the same time, Consular.
Were you working at all?
Yeah, I certainly was.
Okay, so where were you working?
I was working at the Tiffin Police Department, I believe at the rank of lieutenant at that time.
Okay. So you were a full-time police officer and enrolled as a full-time college student in 2 different colleges?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when did you got it? Did you get it? You got 2 degrees, one in a technical college and one a 4-year degree. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was a BA?
Magna cum laude, yes, sir.
Okay. And what year was that?
76.
Okay. Now, when you went and got that BA degree, did you have to go to classes
Yes, sir.
and have professors
Yes, sir.
and take tests
Yes, sir.
and get grades
Yes, sir.
and have a transcript?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you went out to this mail order college, Columbia Pacific University, what classes did you take?
No classes.
What did you take tests?
Yes.
Okay. What tests did you take?
Predominantly written,
Okay.
objective question.
Okay.
type thing.
And while you were enrolled at this college in California, where did you live?
In Tiffin.
Tiffin, Ohio.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you took no classes? Had no professors?
Oh, yes, I didn't say that. You didn't ask that question.
Okay. But no classes?
No classes.
No classes, okay. And when did you start in school there?
Around 1980, sir.
1980. And you got a master's degree? That's what you told us, you
Yes,
got a
sir.
master's degree?
Yes, sir.
And how long did it take you, without taking classes, to get that master's degree?
2 years.
Okay.
It was a combined master doctoral program. The total program lasted 3 years.
3 years?
Yes, sir.
So in 3 years you got a master's and a PhD?
Yes, sir.
And didn't go to class?
I was at the campus a couple times, but I did not attend classes, sir.
They don't have classes at this campus, do they?
No, sir.
I think you told Mr. Fogelman that other schools don't offer classes like this. Are you telling us Harvard and Stanford, Ohio State, Michigan State, they don't offer classes that deal with the psychology of non-traditional groups? Is that what you're telling this jury? That you can't go to those schools and study this kind of stuff?
Consular, this was at that period of time.
1980?
The answer to that is no, because I went to him.
In 1980,
I went and asked for him, yes, sir.
in 1980, you couldn't go to Stanford or Michigan State and take a class on the psychology of non-traditional groups. Is that what you're telling us?
Not and work and not continue, no, sir.
Not if you were going to continue to be a full-time cop,
Police officer.
right? The only way you could, you're not saying that these courses weren't offered. They're just saying you couldn't offer them without, you had to go to class to get a degree there, wouldn't you?
I went to Bowling Green, Toledo University, Marion Campus, Ohio State, the campus at Bowling Green, up by the islands, and one at Ohio State and Ohio University. I could not even get a weekend program.
Could you get a full-time program?
Not in the area that I wanted to, no, sir.
So you could not, you're telling us you could not go to school and go to class and get a degree in this type of subject. You had to go to this kind of college.
Not at this time. You can at Toledo U now.
Okay. Now this lateral transfer, you were in L.A. and San Francisco for 2 weeks. Is that right?
Each, yes, sir.
2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now these 65 to 75 calls that you say and 80% relate to Satanism, those are just suspicions, aren't they? They're not things you actually follow up on, are they?
Yes, I do.
You follow up on every one of these 65 calls a week?
I give information out and or give them people in their area to follow up with.
Okay. Is this your full-time job? Is this all you do for a living?
Do consulting work?
With police departments?
Not with just police departments, sir. I testified earlier with mental health educators, and besides doing consulting, I do give lectures, sir.
But it's all in this area, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
You derive all your living from going around spreading satanic panic, don't you?
Absolutely not, sir.
Now, how many criminal trials have you testified in?
Criminal trial?
How many criminal trials have you testified in?
A couple hundred.
You've testified in a couple of hundred criminal trials. How many of those couple of hundred criminal trials have you testified in as an expert in satanic activities?
One.
And where was that?
Michigan.
And what was the name of the person who was on trial?
I told you earlier, I don't remember his name.
You don't remember, do you?
His first name is Jeff, and he's in Ionia State Prison.
When was it?
About 1987.
1987. And you think because you testified in one trial, you're an expert?
I've testified in hundreds of trials, sir.
But not related to cult activities. You did all that when you were a police officer, didn't you? When you were on the beat, making arrests. But as an expert, in this field, you've only done it one time. Is that right? One time. Is that your answer?
No, I testified 3 times as an expert.
In a criminal trial?
That wasn't a question, sir.
Yes, it was. In a criminal trial.
Your Honor, Mr. Ford asked the question, and then when he starts to get the response, he changes his question. We would object and let the witness have an opportunity to answer.
Let him answer the question.
My question is, Doctor, Your Honor, I'm in my objection. His question's already been asked. The question was, how many times have you testified as an expert in the occult? And I think the witness should be allowed to answer that question before Mr. Ford interposes another one.
If I ask that question, Your Honor, let him answer. I thought I asked him in criminal trials. But if that's all right, how many times have you've been in business now for how many years as a consultant?
Since 1986.
86, okay. And you testified how many times as an expert on this stuff?
3 times.
And how many of those were criminal?
Once.
And you think that qualifies you as an expert?
That's up to the court.
Do you think you're an expert?
I know what I'm talking about.
Do you think you're an expert?
I don't hold myself out as I know a lot about the topic. Yes, sir.
That's not my question. Do you think you're an expert?
Your Honor, the question has been asked and answered.
No, it didn't. He didn't answer it. He said he knew a lot about the subject. I want to know, does he think he's an expert? Do you?
Thank you, Your Honor. At my request, have you reviewed autopsy reports for Stevie Branch, Chris Byers, and Michael Moore?
Yes.
And have you reviewed autopsy photographs?
Yes, I have.
Have you also reviewed some crime scene photographs?
Yes, I have.
Now, based on those items that you reviewed, and if you assume that the testimony showed that the defendant, Jason Baldwin, sucked the blood from the penis of one of the victims, that it occurred on this crime occurred on May the 5th or 6th of 1993, that there was a full moon, and that there was the absence of evidence of blood.
Just a minute, Mr. Baldwin. If I hear any more whispering out in the audience, somebody's going to get it. I can hear audible talk. I don't want to hear it. All right, go ahead.
And there was absence of evidence of blood at the scene. Based on those factors and the information that you reviewed, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the murder of Michael Moore, Stevie Branch, and Chris Byers is occult-inspired or are the occults involved?
They're using those items, yes.
All right. And what is that opinion?
That the trappings, that they were using the trappings of occultism during this event.
And what do you mean the trappings of occultism?
Well, you've got dates, time of the moon phase. You have the removal of blood, and I think it was it?
Well, to start with, on the date, what effect, what relation does the date have?
Occultist, primarily, when we're discussing this, saying in general, like any other religious body, have certain holidays that they worship. Walper's Knock is on April 30th. Beltane is on May 1st, and then.
Okay, now, all right, April the 30th is what now?
Wait a minute, the jury's saying they're having a hard time hearing.
Can you lean?
Please be closer to him.
The gray one.
This one here? Okay. Thank you.
All right. April the 30th.
Yes.
Is what now?
Walper's Knot. It's based at the changing of the seasons.
Okay. And
Beltane is May 1st. It's a fire festival.
It's a what?
Fire festival.
Fire festival?
Fire festival.
All right. And in what group is that a holiday?
Generally, in occultism, it's used by both pagan and satanic beliefs.
All right. Now, while we're talking about it, can you define what we mean when we say the occult?
Sure. Occult is like an esoteric secret science religion. And there are different types to it. There's paganism, which is white witchcraft, and there's Satanism, that's black witchcraft. Some shamanism has been put in there, which is Indian folklore occultism. They go back in the area of paganism prior to Christianity.
Now, does the manner in which the children were tied, does that have any effect?
Notice that they were tied in what I would refer to as a display fashion. In other words, their ankles were tied to their wrists, exposing their genitalia, and they would either put them on their face or on their back.
And what do the types of injuries have significance?
The predominantly there was the removal of the sex organs, and some books on occultism they will talk about sex organs, removing the testicles for the semen. A group called Kratos.
Kratos?
Yeah, Krytos.
Do cults is torture done by cults?
Not, as part of it. I would like for them to understand the difference between traditional occult groups and occult cult groups. I think that would be better if I could put that in there. Traditional occultists follow rules set out by various prescribed manuals for services and so forth. An occult group usually follows the trapping or follows that of the leader, and it could be anything.
All right, in occult cults, are you saying they kind of make their own rules?
Yes, sir.
Now, do the fact of the manner in which the types of injuries in the sense of the variety of injuries have significance in your opinion? And as far as the head injuries to one plus injuries to the face in regard to the...
No.
Direct questions. It says line answers for the witness. Or leaving. Is that a statement, Judge?
What, if any, significance is placed to the presence of water?
Usually, water is there to wash up with. In some cases of traditional occult groups, it's there to do baptism, just as well in Christianity.
What significance, if any, is there to the sucking of blood?
Blood is the life force, and usually they will they prefer to have a child that is young, very young. And the younger, the more innocent, the better the life force.
What significance, if any, is to the absence of evidence of blood at the scene?
I'm not sure how to answer that. They could either do, in occultism, they will take it and store it. They will use it to bathe in. They will use it to drink.
Okay, what you said a minute ago about the drinking of the blood? What was that supposed to do?
Give power, life force, transference of life force.
Now, is there, in occultists, is there any significance to right hand, left hand, or right side, left side?
In Satanism, yes.
All right. And what significance is that, if any?
Right hand, they usually take the midline of the body, right down the street, and they will refer to the right hand path as that for Christianity. The left hand path would be for Satanism.
Now, in actual practice, are there attempts to classify the persons who are involved in occultism into different categories to the extent of which they're practicing occult behavior?
Yeah, in cases where there's suspected criminal activity, we would look at the various levels or for classification. For example, we could have a follower, a leader, a traditional member. We could have a victim.
Okay. Well, what is considered a traditional member?
Traditional member would be somebody who belongs to a satanic church, which is recognized in the state, where they have filed corporation papers or are following traditional satanic beliefs, such as the American Church of Satan.
And who founded that church?
Anton Zandor LaVey.
LaVey?
Yes, sir. Whopper's Knot, 1966.
All right. It was established on Whopper's Knot.
Yes, sir.
All right. And what type? Are you familiar with any of the books that he's written?
Yes, sir.
What are some of those?
He wrote the Satanic Bible, Satanic Ritual Book, and The Complete Witch.
And are those white witchcraft or black witchcraft?
No, those are black witchcraft.
Now, do you have something called self-styled Satanist?
Yeah, those are, that boils down, Counselor, with the different types of groups.
Okay.
Which would start out with an experimenter, usually one that practices alone in an unorganized manner. A self-styled occultist, and we're talking here only in the field of Satanism, and this person has some kind of problems in life, and they use the trappings of occultism to get along. Then we have an occult cult group, and this has a little charismatic leader and some followers. Sometimes they got a name for the group, sometimes they don't have a name for the group. But they use, all three of those use the trappings of occultism. And then you have a traditional church that uses the traditional books on occultism.
Now, do you, in looking at young people involved in the occult, do you see any particular type of dress or jewelry or body markings or anything like that?
The ones using the trappings?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And what types of things do you see?
I have personally observed people wearing black fingernails, having their hair painted black, wearing black T-shirts, black dungarees, or that type of thing. Sometimes they will tattoo themselves. Either it starts out sometimes just with ink, and because they don't know that everything, they're liable to put it on the left as well as the right. Then they will use some earrings, which have occult symbols on them that you can buy through mail order.
In regard to the tattoos, is there any particular area of the hands where tattoos might be?
Two places. One would be on the middle finger of the left hand, and oftentimes will be, sometimes they're confused, like I said, at what levels, but in the web here of the hand.
Between the thumb and the index finger?
Yes, sir, right there.
of the left hand
Yes.
generally, unless they get mixed up.
Yes, sir.
Now, do practitioners of Satanism keep records or books of things or spells or things like that?
Most occultists do, but it depends upon how sophisticated what they do.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 110 and ask if you'd look at that, and also, have you seen that before?
Yes, sir, I have.
And if you would look through that again.
Yes, sir.
All right. And what does that appear to you to be?
What I would refer to as a partial book of shadows.
Book of Shadows,
A
partial?
Partial book.
All right. Now, the item that's drawn on the front, what is that?
That is a pentagram. That happens to be a Wiccan or white witchcraft pentagram.
All right. Now, if you would open the book to the front page.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, explain what that is.
That's confusion to me.
All right.
And the reason why we got a white witchcraft pentagram, then we have upside down crosses, which comes from another type of occultism.
What type of occultism do the upside down crosses?
That's black witchcraft.
Black witchcraft?
And that is at the stations.
And that's what?
That's at what we call the points, the 5 points.
All right. What significance is that it's at the 5 points?
Well, usually in traditional occultism, Satanism, they will have various activities take place on.
Okay. Now,
or figures.
In white witchcraft or Wiccan, do you have upside down crosses?
No, sir.
Now, I want to show you State's Exhibit 115.
Yes, sir.
All right. And is that a photograph that appears to be of that, except there in the photograph are a couple of other items on the front?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what significance, if any, is there to the items that are on the front of the Book of Shadows?
Well, on the front, there's overlaying this pentagram, there's an upside down cross. In black witchcraft, that is 180 degrees of Christianity. Then we have some kind of flying skull here, which
I also want to show you State's Exhibit 112 and ask if that has any significance in occultism.
the body here on top of what looks to be an altar is a head, and it appears to be of the same drawing of Ephias Levi's Ephias Levi, L-E-V-I, Baphomet, or satanic goat head.
Okay.
And below that is a person in a robe, and these robes I have seen sold in occult shops on the East Coast and West Coast.
Now, is this Wicca?
No, sir. This is black witchcraft.
show you State's Exhibit 111. What significance, if any, is there of 111?
It's just something gory.
All right. And in people involved in occultism, is there a particular type of artwork that you see associated with those people?
The ones that I have observed have been involving necromancy or love of death.
Show you State's Exhibit 116. Now, on 116 is when you look at 116 in relation to the other items that I've showed you, does that have any significance? Can you take it in relation to all the other items that I've just shown you?
On, like the altar that's here, several times I've had the opportunity to review pictures where they will have an animal's head on an altar or in a room, usually have a candle on it. I worked cases where they've dug up human heads.
Are different names, or have you ever been involved in cases where different names are used?
Yes. I mean, you're asking, have I seen books of shadows where they've will have different names in them? Yes. And these names are used, which they use inside the cult or their little group.
Now, those items that I've shown you, are those related to Wicca or white witchcraft or Satanism?
This is black witchcraft. I have not seen Wicca, people use that. This one, this kind of confuses me because I have seen people in Wicca and well-meaning have potions and elixirs and nothing.
Did you see Wicca use upside-down crosses?
No, sir.
And something that I failed to show you, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 83.
Excuse me. Yes?
And at my request, did you look over that book?
Yes, I did.
All right. And does that book have, is it Wicca, Satanism, or both?
Both.
Okay. And did you notice anything in particular about the book?
Yeah, a couple things. One, there's a chapter in here called Rise of the Devil, and it is underlined in red. And oftentimes I get in, I look at books and the spinals are not broke on the back. You'll notice on this one, it's not broken back, which to me would be indicating somebody hasn't read that part. And that part starts off with witch hunt mania.
Okay, I couldn't hear you.
Witch hunt mania. That part doesn't look like it's been opened enough farther to read it.
All right, now there's been evidence that the defendant, Damien Echols, said something to the effect, the younger the victim, the more innocent, the more innocent, the more power. Are you familiar with words of an author containing that statement?
Yes.
All right.
Aleister Crowley.
Who?
Aleister Crowley used that.
Right. Who is Aleister Crowley?
He was a gentleman from England, came to the United States. He started a group called OTO and came to the United States. He started the Solar Lodge of OTO out in California.
I can't hear
He
you.
started the Solar Lodge in California.
Solar Lodge?
Solar, yeah, called it SOTO.
Okay. And what type of beliefs does he practice?
Black witchcraft, Satanism.
Satanism?
Yes, sir.
Connor, could I have just 1 minute? Do you know of Aleister Crowley's position on human sacrifice?
Asking for him to testify about this.
Well, I'm gonna allow him to answer if he knows about it, yes or no.
He,
Well, you answer yes or no. You're not familiar?
no.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Judge, if I could approach the witness for just a moment.
Get his wife.
Dr. Griffis, you had testified in your opinion that these murders had trappings of occultism. Now, are you saying that this picture right here, State's Exhibit number 111, are you saying that this is one of the basis of your opinion that the murders were trappings of occultism?
No.
Okay. And actually this picture being something that the Crittenden County Police Department and Sheriff's Office has had in their possession for at least a year prior to these murders taking place, this would actually have no value connection with your opinion, would it not?
Not that picture, no.
Not this picture.
No, sir.
All right, and how about this other picture right here that you described, the one with the goat's head and the altar, picture 112, which has also been in the either the Crittenden County Juvenile Office or the Sheriff's Department for the past year. This picture is not a basis of part of your opinion that these murders had trappings of occultism, is it?
That is occult in nature, yes, sir.
This is occult in nature, but
Yes.
this picture has not been in my client's house for the past a year prior, well, actually almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
So if that's the evidence, that this picture has nothing to do with the murders, is that correct?
No.
Okay. No,
Would you please,
this picture does have something to do with the murders.
it was shown to me last evening, and
Your Honor, I may interject. The question is improper because Mr. Price, number one, presumes facts that aren't in evidence in his question itself. Number two, the court's admonition to the jury that this testimony goes strictly to motive in regard to his testimony it may be evidence connecting motive where Mr. Price's question is directed directly toward whether it connects with the murder, which is a difference.
His opinion was that this murder had trappings of occultism.
All right, I think the proper question to ask the witness is that picture one of the things that he considered in formulating his opinion as to whether or not trappings of occultism occurred?
All right, Doctor, is this picture one of the things that you considered in determining whether this occultism occurred as part of the motive of the murder?
Yes.
This is?
Yes.
And you realize that are you aware that this picture has not been in my client's home the past year prior to the murders?
I had not been.
All right. If you're told that fact, then does that change your opinion that this is a factor that you considered?
I would have to know whether his activities changed. I don't know that. I would be making a guess, sir.
All right, but as far as the existence of a picture in his house, and that picture was not in his house for 12 months prior to the murders.
Yes, sir.
Would this picture in and of itself have any basis for your opinion about the motive of this killing was cult related?
In and itself.
In and of itself.
Would it have? Yeah, because it is a cult. It depicts an occult satanic scene. Yes.
But if this picture has not been in his house for 12 months prior to the murders,
I don't know how to answer that. I'll be very honest with you, sir. I would have to know what he had done for that 12 months. You know.
All right, but my question, and I'll get to what he's doing for that 12 months, but my question relates to this picture. This picture has been introduced at this trial against my client. This picture has been out of my client's house 12 months prior to the murders.
Okay.
Your Honor, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I object that question has been asked and answered 2 or 3 different times.
I'm asking you to explain his opinion about this.
Well, I think he has.
I'd like to take his coat off.
Yes. He wants to take his coat off.
Would you mind, Counselor, if I?
Oh no, not
take,
go ahead.
I come down to Arkansas to get some heat. I sure did. Thank you.
Sure. All right. In looking at this book here, I think you call it the Book of Shadows.
Yes, sir.
Exhibit number 110. The first writings in this book talk about the rites are performed within a 9-foot circle.
Yes, sir.
All right. Isn't it true that there was no evidence at the crime scene of a 9-foot circle?
That's correct, sir.
Right. In addition, it also says that incense was used in all witchcraft ceremonies. And isn't it true that there's no evidence of any incense at the crime scene?
From what I've been told, yes, sir.
All right, so this page in this book has nothing to do with, does this page have anything to do with your opinion that the motive for the murders had trappings of occultism?
That page?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
This page. All right, the next thing talks about improving the memory. Did that spell have anything to do with the crime scene? Another one is a love charm. Did that have anything to do with the murders?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
To improve the chances of success. Did that potion have anything to do with the crime scene of the murder?
That one I don't know.
Okay. Here's one, a cure for worms. Was there any evidence of any worms at the crime scene?
I have not seen the crime scene reports, sir.
All right.
As to that topic.
Okay. A cure for cramps. Is there any evidence about cramps being an element or issue at the crime scene?
No, sir.
Okay, now, earlier you testified about this particular book here and mentioned that part of the book, part of the pages were open and that there were some lines underlined. You have no knowledge of who it was that underlined
no, sir,
parts of the book. And I think you had mentioned one of the chapters in the book. Of course, this book has several different chapters Chapter 1 about horn gods and mother goddesses. Chapter 2, evolution of witchcraft magic. Chapter 3, witches, brews, and broomsticks. Chapter 4, the pagan witches. Chapter 5, the rise of the devil. Chapter 6, the witch hunt mania. Chapter 7, juvenile witch hunters. Chapter 8, the resurrection of the crab. Now, is there anything in this particular book that is your basis of the opinion that the motive of these murders had trappings of occultism?
I found it very interesting, Counselor, that the only thing that was underlined and that dealt with devil worship, and there, if I remember correctly, there was a couple sentences in there reference to blood and its life force.
But as far as any thing in this book dealing with how to commit murders, how to kill somebody, anything of that nature, that type of material is not in this book, is it?
Is it a black manual? No, sir.
Now, going back to the factors that you had stated that were some of the factors that you considered in making your opinion, you first talked about the effect that a particular date, I think you said May the 1st, and then also April the 30th are important dates. All right, now, let me back up a bit. In looking at your analysis of this particular crime, did you take some Satanist beliefs, some Wiccan beliefs, some occult beliefs, and kind of mix it all together? All right. Are you saying that this is a Satanist crime?
Indicators, I've testified earlier, Counselor, about the different types of occult activity.
All right.
And from what I could see, the trappings were used were that of devil worship.
Of devil worship?
Yes, sir.
That's right. All right, one of the factors that you testified to was about the date. And is it your testimony that there are some, I think you testified about April 30th and May 1st being dates of some type of importance?
They have what is referred to as S-Sabbats and Sabbats.
Right.
As Sabbats are higher holidays, and those two dates are higher holidays. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
You said that they. Who is they?
Occultist.
Occultist.
In general. The whole broad spectrum.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is it your opinion that Damien Echols is an occultist?
I looked at the information in total, Counselor, not to whom did what. His name was on that particular book that you brought
That's
to
correct.
my attention, and I found it interesting that Damien Echols underlined only that things which had to do with devil worship.
All right, now you testified earlier that you did not know who underlined.
Yeah, that's true.
That is
okay.
true.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so are you saying that Damien Echols is a member of the occult?
I am saying that looking at the trappings of this type of case, looking at what the book, whomever did that they have interest in the trappings of satanic occultism.
In your opinion, is there a difference between a crime that has trappings of occultism and a cult-related crime? Can you draw a distinction between those two concepts?
All right, Counselor, what I know what you said, but I don't know if that's exactly what you mean. And I would like to answer it this way.
All right.
A cult is something that we've seen with David Koresh.
That's right.
Okay? An occult group is in Satanism. When you mix them together, when you have an occult cult group, you're liable to have whatever the leader may want.
All
Okay?
right. In your opinion, is Damien Echols a member of an occult group or a cult group?
That's his name, and he's been, and he's writing those. He has an interest in it, yes, sir.
He has an interest in it.
Yes, sir.
All right, is it possible to have an interest but not be an actual member of a cult group?
An actual occult group?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I have priests and ministers will call me and ask me for, what does this mean or that mean? That doesn't mean that they're occultist. But on the other hand, they don't have books that are that somebody's underlined with that either.
Okay. So a main factor that you're considering is the fact that my client possessed that book.
That and yes, that's one.
Now, back on the dates, you said that May 1st and April 30th were key dates. Now, these murders took place May 5th.
Wait. I think you had that backwards, Counselor. Did you mean to ask me on April 30th and May 1st?
April 30th is Whopper's Knot, and May 1st is Beltane.
Beltane. I thought you got it transposed.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
my mistake if I did.
No, that's all right.
All right, but
I just want to make sure I'm answering that.
Sure, well, that's fine. The murders, based on the testimony, took place either May 5th or May 6th.
Yeah.
So
it's my understanding it was a full moon.
All right, so is the fact of a full moon, is that a key factor that you're considering?
That is one of the factors, yes, sir.
All right, now, if the murders would have taken place, if there was no moon, then, in your opinion, would this not be a Satanist killing?
It would lower the degrees of probability.
All right, if the murders took place when it was a half moon, would that lower it halfway?
No, you get into semantics.
Okay. You testified that the manner of which the victims were tied, I believe you testified it was a display fashion. Is it also true that the manner in which they were tied could be the basis of this being a sex crime and not a crime with trappings of occultism?
Could be. Yes.
Yes. All right. Could you please state the name of the case that you investigated in which the victims were tied in this manner, which turned out that case also had trappings of occultism?
I've never had one like that.
All right.
I've only had them where they have been displayed.
All right. You had also testified that the type of injury was another factor that you considered in determining about the trappings of occultism. Is the type of injury also the fact that the genitals were removed, that also could be a factor in this being a sex crime, correct?
Could possibly.
Okay, and could this also be a serial killing type of crime?
Serial killers usually leave something or take something from the scene.
Okay. And you'd also testified that the type of the torture was another factor based on your opinion. Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury which case it was that you investigated in which it was decided that had trappings of occultism in which torture was a factor?
This was in Warwick, Rhode Island. A female was killed inside a pentagram, and she was raped and hit with slashed with a knife a couple times. And after she was incapacitated, they burned her up, set her on fire.
All right. In that case, did they actually find a pentagram?
Yes, sir, they did.
All right. And you're aware, in this case, the officers never found any kind of pentagram?
Yes, sir.
Or they didn't find any kind of 9-foot circle?
Yeah.
In our case?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you also testified, or just stated a minute ago, that in the Rhode Island case that they burned up the victim. Is fire another factor that you look at to determine if fire is present, to see if it had, a case has trappings of occultism?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in looking at the evidence in our case, there was no evidence of fire.
Just one of the things.
All right. Another factor that you testified to earlier was about the presence of water. Is it true that the bodies could have been placed in the water in order to drown them?
That's what the medical examiner said to me.
All right. So would you agree with me that could be one of the reasons they were placed in the water?
Yes.
Okay. And also, is it true that bodies could have been placed in water to help avoid detection of the bodies?
Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So the fact that the bodies were found near a presence of water, that in and of itself does not make this a trappings of occult related killing.
Usually in occult cases, they will be around a water source.
All right. And what is a case in which you've investigated in which there's a determination that it had trappings of occult related killing, which was around a water source?
The one in Michigan where the boy is now in Ionia prison.
Okay. That's the Michigan case.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You also testified that the sucking of blood was a factor to consider, and that blood is a life force. And you mentioned that they usually they will take the blood. Did you have a chance to, I'm sure you discussed with the medical examiner, the amount and the loss of blood in all three of the victims in this case?
Yes.
All right, and I'm sure you looked at the autopsy photographs
Yes,
and
sir.
read the autopsy.
Yes, sir.
And of the three victims, only one of the victims, strike that. Do you have an opinion as to where all the blood went in this case?
No, I don't.
Are black and red. Okay. And are you also aware that Jonesboro High's colors are black and gold?
I've gone on record also saying just because they wear one of the, shirt like that doesn't make them the next Manson.
And how many of the cases that you've investigated in which the determination was made that they had trappings of occultism in which the defendants wore black T-shirts?
You're asking specific numbers, sir?
Yes, sir.
I cannot give you a specific number. I get asked that question, and people send me pictures privately. Parents do, whatever.
Okay. All right, backing up to the photograph, the picture over here. State's Exhibit number 111. In the research that you conducted, are you aware that this picture came from a skating magazine?
Source was not told to me.
I mean, I'm sure you've looked at the back of this photograph, Skater Parks, your 1991 tour guide.
No, sir, I was not given the back, nor was I given the note inside.
All right, Judge, we certainly did not stipulate to the introduction of this particular note.
I didn't know it was there either.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Go on. Earlier, you testified about a quote from, I believe, Alistair Crowley, dealing
Crowley, yes, sir.
okay, dealing with younger victims.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you aware that the West Memphis Police Department asked my client how he thought the murders might have occurred?
No, sir, I'm not aware.
Are you aware that the West Memphis Police Department asked approximately 200 other individuals how they thought the murders might have occurred?
I'm not aware of that, sir.
All right, the fact that there's no pattern to the placement of the bodies out at the crime scene, I mean, is that a factor that, if the bodies were placed in a pattern, would that be a factor you'd consider?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But the fact that the bodies were not placed in a pattern, then that's a factor you did not consider?
You were looking down when you asked that, Counselor. You're suggesting that they were not in a pattern when they were found?
Let me rephrase this.
Yes, sir.
Did the crime scene indicate to you that the boys were laid out in a line or in a unique manner?
By the way they were tied up, I could only suspect that. Okay.
Okay. Were you aware that you specifically asked that question on January 27, 1994 to Detective Ridge of the West Memphis Police Department, and he answered no pattern to the placement of the bodies?
Yes, sir.
Except the placement in the water?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you also ask Detective Ridge, was there any natural substance in any way laid out in a pattern? I believe that was question number 4.
You got that. Could you bring it up so I could take a look at it, Counselor?
Number 4.
Yes, I did.
All right, and you're also aware that Detective Ridge's answer was that from his examination of the crime scene, I could not find any items that were laid out in any pattern.
Yes, sir.
All right, and what was question number 6? Did you ask Detective Ridge?
Were there any indicators of a slab or a log or a device present at the scene?
Okay, and he answered number 6, no slab or log was found to be in the area. You aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Just a moment, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Is the fact that there were 3 victims in this case a factor that you considered in reaching your conclusion?
No, I just looked at the base number 3, that's all.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor. right, Dr. Griffis, if I could approach you again.
Sure.
There was an initial group of 11 questions, and then starting midway to the bottom part of paragraph, page 1, and looking at some of the scene photos, flyover photos, and data from the corner, some primary indicators come to focus on. Okay, what was the primary indicator number 5?
At the time, Counselor, I was working from crime scene photos and not medical examiner photos.
Okay.
And I placed down all 3 boys were traumatized in the area of the penis.
Okay.
That's wrong.
All right. I mean, that's wrong. You were able to correct that once you had a chance to look at the autopsy photos? All right. No further questions at this time, right?
Dr. Griffis, is any of the stuff that you've told this jury so far been based on things you learned out at this college?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you learn those things during any particular course or class?
For the course in toto, I was required to read several occult books.
Okay. So basically, what you learned was just someone else's opinion in a book.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, you said that one of your reasons for your opinion was because you saw a book, and you said the person who had this book had an interest in the occult, right?
Yes, sir.
How many books do you have on the occult?
In-house right now,
Yeah, how many you have?
about 4,800.
You got an awful lot of interest in it, don't you?
Yeah?
Are you a member of the occult?
No.
But you've got an interest in it, don't you?
That's my job.
You make a living out of having an interest in the occult. Is that right?
Not just that in itself.
So having an interest in it doesn't make you a participant in it, does it?
No.
Okay. All right. I noticed that you didn't answer one of Mr. Price's questions. You kind of dodged around it. And I want to ask you again. Could this be a serial killer?
I'd have to have the answer to several questions before.
Okay. It could be.
No, I just said I'd have to know a lot more than just taking a guesstimate.
Basically, everything you've told us here today is a guesstimate, isn't it?
No, it's based on training and
Well,
work.
if you can't rule out that it's a serial killer, aren't you just guessing that it's a cult killing?
No, the trappings there. In a serial killer, there are things that you look for. You haven't given me anything that would,
So basically, you're telling this jury you don't have enough information to truly form a complete opinion.
On serial killing? No.
Okay. So since you can't rule it out, it's still a possibility, isn't it?
I would have to know a lot more, yes.
Okay. So that means you can't rule it out.
No.
Have you ever been to this crime scene? West Memphis, Arkansas?
No, sir.
Never even walked out there, have you?
I went past it last evening. That was it.
Never walked out in there, have you?
No, sir.
Wouldn't that be important if you're going to give an opinion about this crime scene being the site of a ritualistic occult killing, that you actually go and see it?
They sent me pictures of all 4 sites.
They sent you pictures. Okay, did those pictures show you every angle?
They showed me, I think, three or four angles, yes.
3 or 4 angles, but there's a lot more than 3 or 4 angles if you're out in a wooded area, isn't there?
In looking at occult cases, Counselor, I look at the points of the compass as an indicator.
Points of the compass, okay. Part of your opinion, ready, Bart? Part of your opinion is based upon the fact, isn't it, that this happened in a secluded area. Isn't that right?
Yes.
This secluded area right near these homes, near this truck wash, and near this truck stop. That secluded area?
Counselor, I'm sorry, but I can't see from this angle.
Well, get down there and tell this jury if you even know where the crime scene is on that photograph. Can you pick it out?
Yes.
You can get down if you'd like.
Thank you. My understanding.
And you're telling this jury that is a secluded area.
Yes, sir.
But you've never been there, have you?
No, sir.
Do you know how far it is from where these bodies were found to the nearest home? Do you know?
I was in Brian's comment. I can't remember exactly.
You don't know, do you?
Not right now, but I knew at the time.
Okay. Now, if you're trying to make a determination that it being in a secluded area is important, doesn't it stand to reason that you want to know how close you are to other things? How close you are to a home, to a business?
I was consular in a case in Boston, which was right beside a church or a school. They never saw it either.
That's not my question. My question is, if you're basing your opinion on the fact that it's in a secluded area,
Yes.
isn't it important to know how close it is to a residence or a business?
I think in Mr. Ridge's report to me, it was there.
That's not my question. Is it important? This is the third time. Is it important in determining whether you're in a secluded area to know how close the nearest residence,
Yes.
the nearest business? But you don't know that, do you?
I was told by, I think it was in his report of Brian's, how close it was.
But you don't know, do you?
No, sir.
Do you have an opinion about where the blood went? Or you don't know, do you?
No.
Don't know.
I do not, in this case, know where the blood went. They have not told me.
Now, if there was testimony in this case that these boys were killed somewhere else,
Yes, sir.
that they were taken and tied up and gagged,
Your Honor, that assumes facts that aren't in evidence for him to say if there was testimony that they were killed somewhere else.
let me ask the hypothetical question that the way Mr. Fogelman did.
Your Honor, that is what he said. He said if there was testimony, my hypothetical included testimony that there's actually been.
If you're going to form a hypothetical, it's going to have to be based on facts that are in evidence.
Or may be presented in evidence.
Or may be presented.
You know, we approach.
Yeah. But that's not testimony.
Yes, he did. He gave his opinion, Your Honor. He gave his opinion that, in his opinion, these homicides occurred somewhere other than that scene. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He just said it was possible.
Well, that's an opinion. That's an opinion. If I have a chance to read it.
From a copy.
Well, you know, I can't read all that 100 and some odd pages right now and find it, but I know that he gave that opinion. He gave opinion it could have happened one of three places: in the water, at the bank, or somewhere else. And of those three, the most plausible was somewhere else. I think that was your testimony. That was his testimony. Well, you just keep asking other questions and we'll find out in the last of it. May we look at that book so we can read it? Huh? If you want to find that in it, yeah, that's what Robbie's going to look for while I'm asking some other questions, or do you want to keep that secret? I'm going to keep this. This is my copy. What a job. Can we take a break since he won't let us look at his copy to get a copy of it?
You can get all the copies you want, but we're not taking a break now. Let's move along.
Well, Your Honor, I can't question this witness until I have answered that question.
Until you have what answered?
I believe Dr. Peretti gave the opinion that of those three possibilities, the most probable was that it happened somewhere else. Here's the area where you were questioning. You look over it right there. There's a question and answer on page 111, 112. Just let the judge read it. Hadn't you already had a chance? Okay, yeah. Call testimony.
Okay, I've read it.
If there were testimony in this case that these homicides could have occurred somewhere else,
Your Honor, it's the same objection.
It's the same. You want to come up here and point it out to me?
Well, Your Honor, I asked Dr. Peretti the question.
Your Honor, appropriate testimony.
Is this a certified copy of the transcript? First of all, Your Honor, I would question that about the blood unless it happened in the water or it happened at some other place. That was his testimony.
He just said it was possible.
And I'm asking him, if all I want to know is if
is there any positive actual testimony that it happened somewhere else?
how could you? Well, do I get to call him
Wait a
back?
minute, are these things on?
Do I get to call him back at the conclusion of my case?
I
Or do
guess
I get
so.
to ask him these hypothetical questions now? Then
Are
in
you
the,
telling me that you have some physical evidence that this murder occurred someplace else?
Your Honor, I'm telling you that I believe it is an argument that's from this witness right here, Dr. Preddy, that based on this testimony, I can argue to the jury that it could have happened somewhere else.
I'm sure.
Okay, therefore I'm entitled
But
to
you
ask
don't
him.
have any facts at
But if
all.
I'm entitled to ask him if he were told that this homicide occurred somewhere else, would that change his opinion that this is an occult killing? I think I'm entitled to ask him that because the jury may very well conclude and agree that yes, these happened somewhere else. And if that is true, they need to know that his opinion would be different.
Judge, that's assuming the fact it's not inequitable.
Well, that's what.
I can't ask him if this homicide occurred somewhere else, would you have a different opinion?
I'll let you ask that question.
All right. In that
In
particular
that
context,
way, in that
Dr.
context,
Okay.
just like you just asked.
Okay.
Doctor,
He said he didn't know whether he was supposed to listen or not. That's why he turned his back.
if
I'm lost.
if this homicide occurred somewhere else,
Yes, sir.
other than in these woods, would your opinion that this was an occult killing change?
You're asking me to make an opinion, Counselor,
Absolutely, I sure am.
and to have that, I would also have to know, do we know where it happened at?
If the homicides did occur somewhere else, would your opinion change?
I would have to have a different set of facts.
So does that mean yes, your opinion would change, or no, your opinion would not change?
No, my comment is the same, Counselor, as what I just said to you. I'd have to know some more facts.
Would the likelihood go down if the homicides occurred somewhere else?
It could go up. It could go down.
Could go down.
It could go down. It could go up.
What evidence do you have to link Jason Baldwin to the occult? What evidence?
Only what I was told last evening.
What evidence do you have that links Jason Baldwin to the occult?
He was the individual who sucked the blood out of the individual's penis.
Okay. If that evidence is wrong, if that evidence is a lie, do you have any other evidence to connect Jason Baldwin to the occult?
I have not seen the reports to know if he was. Other people said he was present or not. So the answer would be no.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, sir, I've got some reading.
Your Honor, I've got one question. Your Honor.
All right.
The serial killers have been mentioned. In your experience, do serial killers act alone or run in packs?
Of all the cases I've read about, there's only been, I think, 2 of them that ran with another individual. Most generally, they act alone.
All right. Is this redirect that you've got now? Mr.
No, so this is re-cross-examination.
Based upon that one question?
No, based upon Mr. Ford's questions, Judge.
I'm not going to let you go too far in recrossing on each other, but go ahead to a limited degree.
Just one brief area, Your Honor. If I could approach the witness.
All right.
Can you identify that picture?
Yeah.
And I believe this,
Back when had not so much gray hair.
And I believe there was an article in the Capital magazine.
Yeah. You identified that earlier today as from someplace else. That's out of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall an article in the Capital magazine, Dispatch magazine, July 15, 1984? And this was basically an article about you. It was entitled "Sympathy for the Devil," and it talked about your activities in this area, and your research and your consulting and that type of thing.
What about, yes, sir.
I think actually, I believe you were
Not
still,
so much consulting, well,
because you were still with the department.
I was with the department, and I was being asked questions from other departments. I did not.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about a quote that's attributed to you that's contained in this article. You've got to remember there's a lot of sheriffs and a lot of police chiefs under a hell of a lot of pressure when I get there. He said, I'm there to help my brother police officers. I report to them, not the public. Is this quote attributed to
Yes,
you?
sir.
No further questions.
I don't have any further questions.
Anything else? Can we let him go? You're going to have a state policeman take you to that plane, I guess.
Thank you, sir.
You're free to go.
Thank you.
Let's take a short recess. All right, the audience is going to have to either have a seat or get out, one or the other. All right, go ahead.
Yesterday we received, we'd asked many times about something from...
Oh, wait, the record should reflect that this is out of the hearing in presence of the jury. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Several times we had requested from the West Memphis Police Department anything that they had received from the FBI regarding any sort of behavioral analysis, any sort of, what's that called? Profile or anything of that nature. Anything that they had gotten, we understood that what we had was everything. Yesterday, Mr. Fogelman, I believe, just received it yesterday from the police department. They hadn't given that to him before.
No, it's in their files, and I don't know whether I had it or not. I talked to Inspector Gitchell. He said he thought that he had provided it, but it is not. He also said that what had been requested was whether or not a behavioral profile had been done, and that is not a behavioral profile.
Your Honor, I thought this was an open file policy. We thought we had everything. This is new stuff that we just got yesterday. You'll notice that this is a fax from the FBI, and it starts on, this is page 9, and we'd like the first 9 pages too. We may want to call this guy as a witness, and we just don't know. We would like to see the first 9 pages of the fax, know what those are, and we may ask for a continuance at that point.
Do you have the other 9 pages?
Your Honor, we'd also request a copy of the report of Lisa Sakavich, if there is one, regarding any candle wax.
I don't know if there is one. She said that what she puts in her report is when there are matches, things that didn't match to anything.
Is it in the report that you have?
No, we've never heard that until it came out today.
No, I remember something about her testimony from in Corning where she started to say something about she found something else and it was interrupted and prevented from saying what it was or didn't say, but I think she attempted to before.
I think that was about the posters that were found in Mr. Baldwin's.
Is that what it was?
Yes. Yeah, I've looked at the transcript.
What's that?
You figure we could probably have a 2-day continuance and nobody would know. We could just get the jury in the back room. It all seem the same to them.
Judge, while they're looking for that, there's one other oral motion I'd like to make at this time. Since at some point in the next day or two, we'll be beginning the defense of Mr. Echols. We'd like to, at this point, and of course the weather may pose a problem with this, we'd like to make an oral motion that the court, pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 1689-118B1, conduct a view of the crime scene for the jury. The statute allows, in the opinion of the court, if it's necessary, that the jury should view the place in which the offense is charged or to have been committed or any other material fact therein. It may order that the jury be conducted in a body in the custody of proper officers to the place must be shown to them by the judge or person appointed by the court for that purpose. And we're requesting that, particularly based on even the questions brought out today about how the importance of the crime scene, we're requesting that the court allow the jury to be conducted to a view of the crime scene.
Yeah, we don't have any objection. The only thing that somehow a cautionary instruction, I think, would need to be formulated because of the fact that, number one, it doesn't look the same now as it did then because of the foliage.
Was it June the 5th?
May the
5th.
Your Honor, also the fact that I'm not exactly sure the customary way that people go in and out of there, or at that time did, was either there was a trail from Blue Beacon, I believe, and also there was one across the pike. Some of those jurors, I don't think, need to be going across the pike. I don't think that it would be safe for some of those jurors to do.
I think they can go through the Blue Beacon way.
There's a 10-foot cycle-on fence there now.
Can they go across that bridge? Yes, you talked about it. That's further down. That's the only problem I see, because what I see happening is if you take them in through the field, through the more or less the back way, you're taking them in a way that different from what the kids win and everything is. Now, I don't know how you would accomplish that.
Well, I'll take that under advisement.
I know the way they customarily win. I know the way everybody customarily wins. There are trails there. I mean, even Ron Nash knows there's one from the church.
You're going to take that under advisement?
I'll take that under advisement. Now, if it's rainy and wet like it is now, I'm probably not going to do it. If we can't arrange transportation other than a Greyhound bus, I'm not going to do it. So those are some factors you need to be looking into, both the state and the defense, about how we can transport them.
Your Honor, also,
Pardon?
do we have an opportunity to consult on this before we commit to the court whether or not we object or in favor of this view? I don't know.
One defendant wants it and one doesn't. Is that what you're trying to pull that stuff again? Is that?
Judge, we're not pulling any stuff.
Okay, well, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, Judge, this is the first I've heard of a view of the crime where the bodies were found until right this very minute, and I want to be able to talk with my co-counsel.
Go ahead. I'm taking it under advisement. I'm not making any ruling on it. You can object then.
Morning, Judge, before we let our opinion.
You can have until day after tomorrow or the next day.
Your Honor, could I inquire of the state how long they're going to be?
You can inquire them. I'm not going to make them answer.
Your Honor,
can you tell us when you want our
when do we
witnesses
need witnesses here? I don't want
for judicial comment.
Yeah.
If I were you, I'd have them here by 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you.
Who's going first with their defense? Is there some sort of rule? Is it going alphabetical order? Or?
They are.
Well, we haven't talked
about that.
Do you object to that?
I don't think so. I think we can have people here and ready to go. But it sure helps if we do win. Okay,
I'd say by 1 o'clock tomorrow, you better be ready.
Yeah, that was it.
Anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
Well,
we're still waiting on this to find the rest of this material.
Well, this is. Well, so the court reporter can go. As far as I'm concerned, these last 9 pages of the facts are not a psychological profile prepared by the FBI. This is a behavioral analysis interview. It's a form.
Which was the basis of the interrogation of our client, Judge. You'll notice approximately 8 of the 15 questions were exactly asked of our client.
Are 12 questions that somebody recommended that you ask a witness or perpetrator or suspect. And it even gives you samples of how to ask the question and basically why, but This is nothing more than a manual or a suggestion, and it doesn't fall within what I would call a psychological profile at all, or under any circumstances. And, you know, I'd think the police department would be fools if they didn't call around and ask for help.
Okay, Your Honor, we just.
And that's what this amounts to. And I'm going to put it in evidence as a pro offer of proof, but I don't know what remedy you're asking for or what you're. Well, I don't care if you object or not. I'm going to put it in the record as an offer of proof.
Your Honor, just so I understand, are you saying that they don't have to turn over the first 9 pages?
No, I'm telling them to give you the first 9 pages. I'd like to see them too. But you're telling me that you don't have a psychological profile prepared by any expert by the FBI. All right. Well, this is kind of a check sheet. This is I would do this if I were you type information.
That seems to me to be the basis for their questions.
So what is your objection?
Well, their grandmother may have suggested a question to them, so what?
Well, our objection is we want to see the rest of it. We may want to call this guy as a witness.
What would he be a witness to?
A witness as to procedures.
Procedures for what?
Interrogation. Yeah. We don't know what it is until we see it, Your Honor. All we know is that we get something and it's the last half of it. Doesn't that make you wonder what the first half is or the first 9 pages are?
I don't know. A lot of things make me wonder.
One small thing that I want to just inquire about, because I'm not sure what there was some discussion the other day. What? You know, there was a discussion today between Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Davis, and Mr. Price and Mr. Davidson concerning this knife that Dr. Preddy examined and the presence of a red material in this knife. And they raised the issue. Pardon?
Barbara, is this on the record?
No, not today. Oh, okay.
This is not on the record.
Not on the record.
And I was just
You
trying
want this on there?
Yes, I do.
Wait.
Well, we'll do it tomorrow then. Court is going home. 4-9.
That's what I'm trying to find out.